Good. Okay, so welcome again. We're going to start the Purple Jacket People story. And the concept of the story will be to explain the concept of the chosen people, what we're doing here, what's the point of mitzvot, all of it, all in one. And here we go. Now, the Purple Jacket People story begins with a mashal, which is a parable, story to help you understand a concept, and then from there, we're going to take it apart and try to explain mitzvot, minhagim, the Jewish people, all of that. So we start like this. There was once a king who was a good man, he had a good heart, and he was a kind, benevolent, generous person. And he was the king over a kingdom of wicked people. Now you're talking about people who murder, hijacking, carjacking, rape, beating each other, gang wars. It was a terrible, terrible kingdom. And here we have a king who has a good heart, who's sitting up there in his palace in the hill, and he can't believe what's going on. And day after day, he tries to create this goodness in the kingdom, and no one's listening. And eventually the king says, look, if everyone keeps on acting the way they do, with the way they are treating each other, with their dishonesty, with their violence, the king says, you know what? I'm going to leave the kingdom. I don't have to be here. I don't need to be your king. I'm independently wealthy. I don't need to be the king. It's not an ego trip. If you can treat each other with kindness and respect, okay, so I'm happy to be your king. But otherwise, I'm not interested. And people laughed, and they said the king is never going to leave. Why? Whoever heard of a king leaving his own kingdom? One morning, knock on the king's door, try to wake him up, no answer. Eventually, they break down the door, the king is gone. That's it. All of his possessions are gone. They run down to the treasury, the treasure houses, all of the money, all the gold, all the silver gone. They belong to the king. Now you had a kingdom without a king. What happens to a kingdom without a king? Anarchy, implosion, and the kingdom destroyed itself. The king, meanwhile, took a few of his trusted advisors, and he took all of his money, and he had this brilliant idea. And this is what he did. He took the money and he built a brand new kingdom from the ground up. Beautiful big highways, beautiful parks, large houses on great big properties, shopping malls, libraries, public schools, you name it. This was an amazing, amazing kingdom that the king had built, but there were no people living there. Only after the king had finished building the entire kingdom from scratch, the king said, okay, whoever would like to come and move into this kingdom, you're welcome to come. But on one condition, you must agree to be good people. You must agree to be moral. You must agree to be decent. You must treat each other properly and kindly. And he put ads in all the major newspapers around the globe. Come, join me. The new Camelot, a utopian society. You can come and join. You'll have an amazing time as long as you agree to these moral principles. Well, when people heard about this, first they thought it's weird. Whoever heard of a moral clause with a real estate venture? Like, I'm going to buy a house, agreeing to be moral and decent. Never heard of such a thing. But there were people who were curious, and they began to, they came into the kingdom, poked around, and when they looked at the houses, and you're talking about big houses with, 8 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, very large, sitting on an acre of property, they said to themselves, you know what? I could be good, I could be decent and moral. Look what kind of house I'm going to get. Look at the parks for the children. And, if I'm good and you're good, so we won't have to put bars on our windows. We won't have to put low jack in our cars because no one's going to steal our cars. I could deal with this. And people began to move into the kingdom. And the more people who moved in, the more people who moved in. Right? It became the thing to do. Move into this brand new, wonderful kingdom. Until eventually, every single house in the kingdom was full. To the point that there was even a waiting list. You wanted to come to the kingdom, there were no houses available. You had to put yourself on a waiting list, hoping that someone would move out. No one wanted to move out. What a great place to live. What a great place to raise a family. And the king every day would sit down at his breakfast table, pick up the newspaper while drinking his coffee, eating his Danish, flip open the newspaper, and he'd read the headlines. And the headlines would always make him smile. You know, fireman rescues kitty from tree, hands to old lady. Got a picture of the old lady holding a little cat. Boy Scout walks old lady across the street. Same old lady. Man returns purse. The same old lady. She's in all the stories, you know. Right? It was an amazing thing. Every day you'd open up the newspaper, you'd read good news. Pleasant. So pleasant to live in such a place. And the king thought to himself, this is what it's all about. This is what it means to live like a proper human being. This is wonderful. One day, king's sitting down to his coffee in Danish, flips open the newspaper and reads, man caught shoplifting. Now, in the old kingdom, a person caught shoplifting, would that make it into the newspaper? Absolutely not. Man, shoplifting, you know, shoplifting happens all the time. But in this kingdom, that's a major breach. Headlines, shoplifting. 2 days later, woman caught pickpocketing. A week later, armed robbery at the 7-Eleven. I don't know why he built a 7-Eleven in his beautiful new kingdom, but he did. And there was an armed robbery there. And the king is reading the newspaper, and each day the news is getting worse. And the king was distraught. He was anguished. What am I supposed to do? How can I make sure that this kingdom doesn't become like my old kingdom? It's spiraling out of control. What should I do? What can I do? And he calls in his best friend, his chief advisor, and he says, please, you got to help me. I can't keep this up. I can't keep... I'm not going to leave this kingdom and build a third one. I don't have the strength. What should I do? And the advisor says, if I can be very open with you, I'll tell you what I think the problem is. You're a good man. You're a great king. You have a good heart. You're kind. You're generous. You're benevolent. You're thoughtful. Really, what you really want is you want everyone in the kingdom to be just like you. The problem is, they never see you. You're on your palace on the hill, locked away behind the moat and the drawbridge. They never see you. To them, it's an idea. Be good. And eventually, what happens to ideas? Well, human instinct kicks in, our baser instinct, and we begin to slip and slide. We begin to fall. Says the best friend, if you want people to stay on the straight and narrow, there's only one solution. You must have living and breathing role models in your kingdom who will act like you, who will represent you, who will represent your kingdom what it means to be good and decent. Put on them purple jackets. They'll all wear these purple jackets so that wherever they walk, people will say, oh, these are the king's representatives. Now I get what the king means when he says, be kind, be decent, be thoughtful, be good. And the king loved that idea. And he went out and he found a group of people and he put on them purple jackets. And wherever the purple jacket people walked, wherever they moved, wherever they lived, wherever they functioned, wherever they worked, things improved dramatically. A husband and wife were fighting, they would go next door. Hey, let's see how the purple jacket people make their marriages work. They seem to have a good marriage. In business, purple jacket person, you could trust them on a handshake. Integrity, honesty, a hallmark of the purple jacket people. Even in school, the kid with the purple jacket, class monitor all the time, you know, straight A's, you know, beaten up in the playground, you know. Purple jacket, yeah. But that's the purple jacket people, and it really helped the kingdom improve. It was amazing. And the king was happy once again. Alas, our story has a bittersweet ending, you see. The king began to hear rumors that even the purple jacket people had begun to slip. little bit of dishonesty, a little bit of cheating. The king was not happy. And he calls in the purple jacket people into his chamber. He's sitting on his throne. The purple jacket people are standing, quaking in front of him. And he looks at them. He looks at each one in the eye and he says, fellas, what do you think you're doing? Don't you realize what it means to wear the purple jacket? Don't you understand that by wearing the purple jacket, you are representing me to the rest of the world? Now, instead of being the example, you've become the excuse. If the purple jacket people that are the king's representatives, if they can do such and such, what do you want from us? We're just the regular people. Says the king, I cannot take away your purple jackets. Everyone knows who you are already. Even if you take them off, people know who you are. But instead, if you misrepresent me, I will punish you and I will do so publicly so that people will see that the way that you're acting does not represent me, does not represent what I consider to be good, honest, and true. Who are the purple jacket people? Jews. At this point, it should be clear. The purple jacket people are the Jewish people. In a perfect world, the Almighty does not need Jews. He doesn't. As a matter of fact, Hashem did not create the world of Jews. Was Adam Jewish? Chava Jewish? Noach Jewish? No. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, were they Jewish? No, they were not Jewish. They were not. If they were Jewish, then their children would be Jewish. Then Ishmael would be a Jew and Esav would be a Jew. They're not Jews. They were the forefather of the Jews. They gave us morals, values, and principles that we have adopted. The Jews only became the Jews after we left Egypt. We actually underwent a conversion. Right? In order to convert, you need three things. Right? You need Milah, Tvila, and Kabbalah HaMitzvahs. Bris Milah, they got right when they left Egypt. Right? Tvila, they went through the sea. Kabbalah HaMitzvahs, they accepted the mitzvahs at Har Sinai. So they actually underwent the conversion then. They were not Jews. In a perfect world, God wanted people to be good to each other. He wanted them to know the difference between good and bad, right and wrong. He wanted them to be honest and true and faithful and not to steal and not to lie and not to commit adultery. But what did mankind do? How did mankind begin to slip? One thing after the next. Robbery, chamas, stealing. Eventually, the Almighty says, you know what? Mankind cannot go on like this. I don't need to be the king over these wicked people. And Hashem created a mabul of flood, washed away the entire world. Once again, began with Noach. Again, the world began to prosper. Tower of Babel. Spread everyone out, let's start over. Well, a few years later, the capital of the civilized world, Sodom and Amorah. Got to destroy them. They were despicable people. They were evil people. We got to start over. Eventually, the Almighty says, I need my purple jacket people. I need my people in the world who will represent everything that I consider to be good, kind, and true. So why us? When God is looking for His purple jacket people, why did He choose us? Are we smarter than the rest of the world? Yeah, we're not smarter. The Asians are smarter. Probably nowhere too. Are we more athletic? Probably not that either. Why? That's the question. Why did God choose the Jews? As a matter of fact, there is this famous poem that they used to say in England. It was a very anti-Semitic poem, actually, when a noble person of English descent would pass a Jew. He would look at the Jew, and he would sneer at him, sometimes spit, and he would say this little poem. He would say, how odd of God to choose the Jews. Like, out of all people, how odd of God to choose the Jews. Now, eventually, because we're Jews, we got to give an answer back. So we made up a poem as a retort. So they would say, how odd of God to choose the Jews. And we would say back, it's not so odd the Jews chose God. Right? Not so odd. The Jews chose God. But since we are Jewish and we cannot leave well enough alone, we made up a second poem as well. So here's how the second poem went. It was a little bit longer. They would say, how odd of God to choose the Jews. And we would say back, well, odder still are those who choose a Jewish God, yet spurn the Jews. Got it? Odder still are those who choose a Jewish God, Yashka, yet spurn the Jews. Right? That was a better poem. The only problem was it was a little bit too long. So, it would go like this. The non-Jew would say, how odd of God to choose the Jews. And then the Jew would say, well, odder still are those who choose a Jewish... Wait! The non-Jew was down there. Wait, so good. You got to hear the punchline. Odder still are those who choose... They went back to the first time, right? So why did God choose us? Why did God choose? I was once giving a talk in Manhattan to college students, and I asked the college students, how many of you are proud of the fact that you're chosen? And no one raised their hand. How many people consider themselves chosen people? No one. Finally, one guy raised his hand and says, oh, you do? He goes, no, actually, Rabbi, I think it's a racist concept, the chosen people. I said, really? Yeah, a little Aryan. I said, really, that's so? I have a question for you. Were you ever bar mitzvah? He says, yeah, I was bar mitzvah. I said, wow, amazing. How many people were at that bar mitzvah of yours? He goes, I don't know, Rabbi, about 300. So I said, great, and you go call up to the Torah? You bet. You made blessings? Sure. What were they? Oh, I remember them. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu Hachalam, right? Asher bachar bana mikol ha'amim v'nasan lanu es Torah. I said, oh, so let me just translate that for you, okay? Blessed are you, O God, King of the universe, who chose us from all the other nations, and gave us His Torah. So I said, so it seems to me like you announced in front of 300 people on your bar mitzvah day that you were chosen. So he said, it's not fair. I didn't know what I was saying. I said, well, that's your own fault. You gotta know what you're saying. But why did God choose us? It's a hard question. Harder than you may think. And the answer will surprise you. But the answer is so important. It is so critical. It is actually the foundation of Judaism. Why did God choose us? The answer is, God chose us because we were slaves. That's the answer. God looks around the world and says, I need to create righteousness in the world. I need to introduce kindness and benevolence and sympathy and honesty. Where is there going to be a people? Where can I find my purple jacket people who understand what it means to be good and righteous and decent? Where is there a people who understand what it means to be downtrodden? What it means to be subjugated, what it means to be abused, what it means to have orphans and widows and homeless and needy. Hey, looky here. Here you have an entire nation, men, women, children, who for hundreds of years were enslaved. These people, they have orphans, they have widows, they have been downtrodden and abused and disregarded and cast aside by all of humanity. If there's one people who can relate to the mission statement of the purple jacket people, it's got to be these band of slaves. So God takes them and He whisks them out of Egypt. And He right away brings them to Mount Sinai, Har Sinai. And He gives them the Torah. And after He gives them the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 principles of Judaism, right away He launches into the laws in Parshas Mishpatim. And what are the first laws in Parshas Mishpatim? What do the first laws deal with? How to treat a slave. That's right, Parshas Mishpatim. How to treat a slave. Then how to treat the downtrodden. How to treat a widow. How to treat an orphan. How to take care of the next person's property. You know why that's so important? Because slaves, the way that they live, their mentality is, it's a kill or be killed, right? You could grab whatever you can because you don't have your own power, you don't have your own autonomy. So slaves very often have no regard for property and autonomy. So right away, Hashem gives us the commandment of how to take care of the next person's property. Be careful. Now people can own property. You couldn't own it. Now you can. Now treat it with dignity and honor and respect. Don't hit, even though you've been abused. Remember what it was like. And certainly don't kill. And that's on and on. That's why we were given those laws. We were given them because we could relate to the mission statement. You know, right away when the Jewish people were brought out of Egypt, they were given the laws of Pesach. And on the laws of Pesach, they were given certain mitzvot, certain things to eat. What do we eat on Pesach? Matzah, maror, charosas, korban Pesach, correct? That's right. Not now. Right? Karpas, right? We dip the vegetable into the salt water. Why? What is it all about? So often we miss the point. Why do we eat maror?
Bitterness.
Bitterness. So what?
To remind us.
To remind us that what?
Bitter taste.
Bitter lives we have.
To remind us that what?
Bitter lives.
Slaves.
To remind us that we were slaves.
Hard work we did.
And that it was that it was terrible, it stunk, you know, who wants to be a slave, and therefore
We should not repeat it we should not be doing it.
not only shouldn't we be doing it,
For example.
we should show an example and teach the rest of the world. See, that last leap that you just made is the leap that people disregard, and that's the whole point. So that when Martin Luther King goes marching down the street, who marched right next to him? It was rabbis. That's right. Because they remember the lesson. When we eat karpas in salt water, why? To remember what? To remember tears. Why do we want to remember tears? That they cried.
You don't make other people cry?
That's right. But even more than that, so we should be sensitive. So that when we walk down the block and we see a guy sitting in a cardboard box with his hands out saying, please, I haven't eaten in 3 days, to not assume right away, hey, he probably needs it for drugs. Hey, maybe, but maybe he hasn't eaten. Look, he's not gainfully employed. He's living in a box. And if you're not sure, go across the street, buy the man a sandwich and give it to him. Remember tears. Remember tears. Light unto the nations. Fix up the world. That's our mission statement. What can I tell you? This is Judaism. This is Judaism in a nutshell. And I want to tell you something. The non-Jewish world, they get it. They really do. After you hear this talk tonight, you're going to become very sensitive to it whenever you listen to the way non-Jewish people speak or write about Jews. I was once driving down Wilshire in Los Angeles, and I hear in this radio talk show, they were speaking about a movie that had come out that was a filthy movie. It was a very filthy movie, and the radio talk show host was saying, why do they have to put this garbage, this smut, on the big screen? Why? Is it to pollute our minds? Is it to corrupt us? And then this talk show host, in the middle of his monologue, he says, you know, I don't get it. This movie is put out by Miramax Studios. Isn't Miramax Studios owned by Bob and Harvey Weinstein? Aren't these guys Jewish? They're supposed to be teaching us how to act. They're supposed to be our teachers. Is this what they're trying to teach us? Is this the example that they're trying to set for us? Bam, I almost slammed on the brakes. Ridiculous. Here on 50,000 clear watts of Los Angeles radio, purple jacket people. Again and again, you'll become so sensitive to this. I was in a gas station, and the guy in front of me is buying a Kit Kat. And as he's reaching for it, it slips out of his hands. So as he's picking it up, he utters a curse word. And then as he's like standing up, he sees that I'm the guy standing behind him in line. He notices the yarmulke, and he says, oh, I'm so sorry. You're sorry. You don't know me. I don't know you. Yarmulke, purple jacket person in the house. Watch how you talk. Right? Refinement. Higher goal. That's what we're all about. Again and again and again. I mean, there are many books that attest to this. All you got to read is read Paul Johnson's History of the Jews, read the book Gift of the Jews, a great book by Ken Spiro. The other two books were not written by Jews. A great book written by a Jewish person is Ken Spiro called World Perfect, that discuss the most important values that we value in society today, that we think are sort of natural and organic, that are part of the DNA of all of mankind. And when you actually trace it back, it's all Jewish origin. From value of life, to value of education, to value of family, so on and so forth. They're all Jewish concepts. No less of a person than Hitler wrote in his wicked book, Mein Kampf, a very famous line called the people call the line the two wounds. He said the Jews have inflicted two wounds on mankind. A wound on the body and a wound on the soul. A wound on the body, circumcision. They've introduced circumcision. A wound on the soul, they've given the world a conscience. Right? Without the Jew, we could do what we wanted, when we wanted, and not feel bad or guilty. Now that the Jew has given the world a conscience, suddenly we're nervous, we're afraid. We picture the Jew wagging his finger at us saying, are you sure you should be doing this? For that, writes Hitler, I hate them most of all. He hated the fact that purple jacket people exist in the world. That question, is that okay? Are you sure you're not hurting someone? Is that the right thing to do? Is that honest? Is that kind? Even Hitler, Yamach Shemo, acknowledged that that's what we're doing here in this world. Amazing stuff. As a matter of fact, the only people who don't understand the purple jacket people concept is the Jews. We're the only guys. We're the only, oh, don't look at me, please. Don't look. Why? Because that's how we are. We're sort of ashamed. We're sort of embarrassed. You know, there's a very famous story of this guy who's sitting on the train. He's Jewish, but not religious. And he's sitting next to this guy with a beard and a black hat. And he looks at him with disgust. He keeps looking at him. Finally, he can't hold his tongue. And he says to the guy, you know, it's because of you. And the guy with the beard and black hat said, pardon me? He said, it's because of you. It's because of you that they hate us. What do you got to go around town with your beard and your black hat as if to say I'm all that? Why can't you be a little more demure? Why don't you blend in a little bit with society? So the guy with the beard and the black hat said, pardon me, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Amish. So the guy says, you're Amish? He goes, yes, I'm Amish. He says, oh, I'm so sorry. He goes, have you an issue with the Amish? He says, no, I really don't. I'm so sorry. I thought you were somebody else. I thought you were something else. He goes, no, please, if you have an issue with the Amish, let me try to explain it to you. He goes, no, I really have no issue with the Amish. I love you guys. I eat your butter all the time. You know, I've been to Amish town. I love you. You know, you got your horse and your buggies and you keep your traditions. You keep your principle. No, the opposite. I respect you. I respect you so much how you keep your traditions. So then the guy with the beard and the black hat turns to him and says, well, you know what? I have something to tell you. I think you're an idiot. He said, because I'm not Amish. Of course I'm not Amish. I'm a chassid. Well, I'm sitting here on a train. You know? He said, but why is it okay if I'm Amish then? I respect your traditions. I respect your values. I respect that you respect your values. If you're Amish, then you respect yourself. But if you're Jew, okay, now we got to hide. Now it's time to throw everything off so that people won't look at us. Have a little respect. I'm not telling you to put on a hat and a beard, but at least don't be ashamed. At least respect those that have tradition and are able to keep up their tradition. It's always Jews. We're the only ones that don't get it. You never see on campus, you see different kinds of Israeli T-shirts. You see Kal-Kakala, you know, in Hebrew, or don't worry, America, Israel's got your back. You ever see that one, right? Right, but you never saw a T-shirt that says "Chosen One in the house" or "Chosen One" with the arrow pointing up, right? Someone should do that, right? Chosen and proud of it, you know. Why? Because we're ashamed. We don't, you know. As a matter of fact, we try to blend in at every available opportunity. But you know what happens when we do? I'll tell you exactly what happens. When Jewish people try to blend in, eventually the non-Jewish world says, sorry, we can't have that. We need our purple jacket people. We may never love you, but we will respect you if you respect yourself. Look in history, throughout history. The worst times of anti-Semitism came when Jewish people try to assimilate and integrate until they no longer looked and felt Jewish. Spanish Inquisition, even in Berlin during the Holocaust, Jews had so completely assimilated, it was horrifying. Judaism was dying. Judaism was dying. The Enlightenment came about and people were running towards the non-Jewish world. And Hitler says, no, we need you. You are Jewish. And if your mother's Jewish and you don't consider yourself a Jew, you're still a Jew. And if your grandparents are Jewish, you're still a Jew. And if your great-grandparents are, the Nuremberg Law says, you're still a Jew. Because we need you to be Jewish. You know what that's like? You ever have a teacher who's a little bit too friendly? to the kids, like he's trying too hard to fit in, be one of the guys. So all you got to do is picture the first day of class. Teacher teaches the class. Then at the end of the day, everyone goes out to play basketball. Here comes the teacher. He unbuttons his jacket. Throw the rock. Throw the rock. Right? So, okay, well, he knows it's called a rock. Okay, that's okay. Here, they throw him the basketball. Dribbles. Shoots, misses. Hey, but look, he's trying, right? You give him props for trying. Fantastic. The next day, after class, everyone goes out to shoot some pool. Here comes the teacher, takes off the jacket. Okay, shoot some pool, right? Shooting some pool, right? Like people getting a little bit weird in the class, not so happy about this. Right? Third day after school, everyone's going to hang out in the mall. Here comes the teacher, hang out. Okay, fellas, hang out in the mall, Dave and Buster's, right? So eventually the leader of the class goes over to him and says, teacher, we're just feeling uncomfortable about the setup. You're the teacher, we're the student, we're comfortable like that. We're really not comfortable like this. That's what the world has always told the Jewish people. We need you to be the purple jacket people. If you've ever looked at the amazing double standard that the world holds Israel to vis-a-vis her Arab neighbors, you see purple jacket people in black and white constantly, right? Israel tries to target terrorists, and the terrorists are hiding by a school. Terrorists drop missiles on civilians, targeting civilians, and yet there's some sort of moral equivalency. You get it? Purple jacket people. There's no question about it. I even once saw on one of the blogs, someone was like really giving it to Israel. And then at the end, the person writes, and you may wonder, why am I giving it so hard to Israel? I'll tell you why. Because they're the chosen people. We have to hold them to a higher standard. And this was no lover of the Jews. But they get it. They understand it. That's the concept of the purple jacket people. Now let me explain that one step further, okay? Tikkun olam. Fixing the world. Right? If you go to some sort of a JCC, Tikkun Olam, you would imagine that Tikkun Olam is like every third word in the Torah is Tikkun Olam. Every fourth word, every fourth pasuk. How many times you got Tikkun Olam in the Torah? 0. Not even once. So what's up with that? No, it doesn't even say it, right? Shabbos, it says many times. You have those Tikkun Olam people, it doesn't even mention it. How do you read that? Do we not? Isn't purple jacket people Tikkun Olam? Yes and no. Yes and no. You have a beauty pageant. You got a beauty pageant, right? So there are different sections, different parts of the beauty pageant. Let's say the Miss America pageant. So everyone, of course, tunes in for the most critical part of the pageant, the interview section, right? They're all there to watch the interviews because they want to know, how is this pageant contestant going to answer the difficult question posed to her by the interviewer? So here you go. And she's sitting there and the interviewer says, okay, if you win the Miss America pageant, Miss Idaho, what are you going to do with that crown? What is the number one ditziest answer that you can give?
World peace.
I'm going to create world peace. I'm going to end world hunger. No, you're not. You're a ditz in a bathing suit. And in a year from now, no one's going to even remember that you existed. They probably don't remember even now. Right? You're not going to do it. If you want a good answer, you know what a good answer is? I'll tell you. If I were a lady and not Jewish and in the contest and good looking and all I needed was a good answer, I got it. I'm the winner. Because you know what the answer would be? Well, if I win the Miss America pageant, what I would do is I would work towards getting extra funding for the deaf children in our state school system. Killer answer. For many reasons, right? Targeted. Who knows how much extra, that bada bing, bada boom, I'm the winner, right? Because when you try to do Tikkun Olam like that, it just tells you it's not going to happen. When I was in the UCLA, so there was a bunch of students who came near the end of the day. They were walking up the walk, and their faces were red and sunburnt. And I said to them, how you doing? And they said, not very good. I said, where were you? You all burnt. He said, we were in a Tikkun Olam project. I said, what did you do? He said, we went down to Santa Monica to clean up the beaches. So I said, that's a nice thing. Cleaning up beaches is a good thing. They said, well, Rabbi, what we discovered? We realized that after spending the entire day picking up litter from the beaches, soda cans and beer bottles and wines, potato chip bags. When we finished, we had covered about a mile of beach. And then we looked after the area that we had finished, as far as the eye can see, litter, 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 litter. Then we looked at the other side, where we started cleaning, right before then, litter, 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 as far as the eye could see. We looked at the place that we had just cleaned up today. Guess what? Already they're throwing the Budweiser cans on the beach. And we came to realize that tikkun olam is a crock. Cannot be done. Can't be done. But you know why? That's not what tikkun olam was ever meant to be. And that's why Hashem doesn't give us the mandate, tikkun olam. What tikkun olam is supposed to be is keeping Torah and mitzvot. And by keeping that Torah and mitzvot, you create for yourself a better family. You become a better husband or a better wife. You become a better parent. You become a better son. You become a better neighbor. And it pays itself forward. And one person after the next changes the culture, changes the society. Do you know what the safest city in America is? Muncie. As told by USA Today about 6 weeks ago. Headlines. Rockland County, which is almost all Muncie. Safest city in America. You know why? That's right. Right here. You're in it. I didn't lock my car. If I was really brave, I would have left the keys in the ignition, you know. Because what's to be worried about? I'm in purple jacket country. Right? Purple jacket country. I got nothing to worry about. I'm not afraid of anything. That's what it's all about. So, that's how to affect the world. And that's how to affect change. And if we want to really be purple jacket people, you know how we're going to do it? I'll tell you how we're going to do it. We're going to do it when we go to ShopRite or when we go to Pathmark and we unload our shopping cart into our trunk. When we're finished, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take that glorious walk and take that shopping cart and we're going to walk it all the way back to that row where shopping carts are supposed to go so it doesn't dent the next person's car. That's what a purple jacket person does. Doesn't go around wagging his finger at people. He lives an amazing life. Now, we're going to get up to the next and more sophisticated part of this talk. Since we are the purple jacket people, it comes to reason that each and every mitzvah that we have is here to target another moral concept that helps make us better purple jacket people, right? If Torah is here to make us people who will be a light unto the nations, it must be that every mitzvah is there for that purpose. Now, there are certain mitzvot that we have that I understand how it's here to make me a better person. For example, anyone? What's a moral mitzvah? What? Don't kill. Don't steal. Maybe you can say honor your parents. That's a good one. Questionable, right? Right? We have our moral mitzvot, and there are people who say, look, I want to be a good person. So those mitzvot, those I keep. But what about all the other mitzvot that we have? What about all the mitzvot that look ritualistic or dogmatic? What about those mitzvot? Do those make me more moral? Do those make me better purple jacket people? That's the devastating question we have to ask ourselves. What about a mitzvah like not wearing shatnez, not wearing wool and linen? Does that make me a more moral person? What about a mitzvah like not eating milk and meat together? Am I more moral? Am I able to be a light unto the nations? Can I be a purple jacket person better if I don't eat a cheeseburger? You hear the question? Because it stands to reason that every mitzvah is targeting a moral concept. And the answer is yes, they are. And that's where sophisticated Judaism comes in. Every single mitzvah is targeting a midah, targeting a character trait. And only once we understand this do we begin to delve into sophisticated Judaism. Every mitzvah targets a midah. So, the obvious ones like don't kill, don't steal, those, it's true, we keep them, but you know what else? The rest of the world keeps them as well. Okay, so every single mitzvah targets a midah. Now, we have don't kill, don't steal, but so does the rest of the world. They all have don't kill, don't steal. Now, the truth of the matter is, our version of don't kill, don't steal is more nuanced than the world's version of don't kill, don't steal. For example, don't kill, according to Judaism, even includes don't embarrass someone. That's part of killing them, right? The non-Jewish world is just don't kill. According to Judaism, it even means don't embarrass them to the point that the blood drains from their face. The rest of the world has don't steal, but we even have a concept of don't steal sleep. Don't wake someone up. Or gnevas das. Don't steal someone's knowledge. Don't go into a store pretending you plan on buying something, but having no intention to buy just because you want to price compare. Right? We have these other laws, but they're all variations of don't kill, don't steal. The rest of the world has these basic commandments. It's the other mitzvot that seem like they're just rituals that are more nuanced, but no less targeted and extremely powerful. Let me give you an analogy, okay? Let's say you draft a running back for the first round. First round, running back. First day of training camp, and the coach puts down these orange cones, and he wants everyone to dance around the orange cones, to improve their reflexes. Well, the running back who was chosen the first pick overall in the draft, he comes over to the coach after 5-10 minutes, and he sort of like nudges him, and he says, let these suckers over here jump between the cones. You and I, you know why I was drafted. I'm the runner. Come on, I'm the stallion of the group. Let me practice the running. Let me work on the running. And the coach slaps him in the head and says, get back into line there, you arrogant guy. What do you think? You think that running back, all he has to do is run from here to there? Of course, we chose you first because you know how to run well. But a running back has to do a lot more. He has to block for the quarterback. He has to be a lead blocker. He has to know sometimes how to receive. He's got to know how to do the flea flicker. He has to know the nuances of the game. You'll know how to do the basics. You'll know how to run. But if you want to play in the NFL, you got to know the nuances of the game. In Judaism, there are the overt moral commandments, the don't kill, don't steal, honor your mother and father, don't commit adultery. And then there are the nuanced laws that when I first hear them, I don't hear how they're targeting a moral concept, but they are. And they are targeting a moral concept. Now, okay, there's a more complicated way to explain it, and I'm gonna take a minute to do it. I'm not gonna go in depth, but I just need you to hear it. Okay? If you have a look at the Torah starts off with stories. You got the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Chava, right? You've got Noah, you've got Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, all the tribes, selling of Yosef. Then you've got Shemos. And you've got the story of Exodus. And you've got the plagues. Right? If you were a kindergarten teacher and you were doing arts and crafts, you will love the beginning of the Torah. Oh yeah. Right? Let's begin. There's arts and crafts. And Bereshis, Noah, make an ark, make a little teva. It's all full of stories. The Torah has got a lot of stories in it. All the way. Bereshis. Right? That's Bereshis, full of stories. It's a big, long story. Then you got Shemos. Shemos starts off with stories, more stories. Okay? All the way until Mishpatim, which was 2 weeks ago. Mishpatim. Okay? So you have stories. You got stories for like 17 parshios, 18 parshios, and then but 17 parshios, and then all of a sudden you got laws. And for the rest of the Torah, you got laws. You got laws. And if you're a kindergarten teacher, you are stuck. Right? Except that God in His infinite wisdom and mercy allowed it that just around Mishpatim Teruma, the holidays kick in. So now, instead of arts and crafts about the Parshias, now you can make arts and crafts about Purim, Pesach, Shavuos, you're covered. Otherwise, you'd have to think of 10 weeks of arts and crafts in Vayikra about sacrifices. This week we're making a carbon mincha. Next week we'll make a carbon ola, and then we'll make a zvachim. Right? The teacher will be very, very busy with all that, right? So you got these kicking. Why? It's very odd for the Torah to start like that. Isn't that strange? Stories like, if I were writing the Torah and I felt there had to be stories and there had to be laws, what I would do is I'd make it probably 2 volumes. Volume number 1 is stories of the Torah, and volume number 2 is laws, right? And that makes sense? A storybook and a law book, right? Why does the Torah begin with these stories? The answer is that the Torah is setting us up for the purple jacket people concept. This all explains how we got to the point in world history that we needed a Jewish people. Who was Avram? Who was Yitzchak? Why couldn't the world function without them? What happened to Noah and his flood? What happened to Sodom and Amorah? Who was Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? And what did they add to the moral DNA of the Jewish people, so that if you took their progeny, you took their grandchildren, and you put them in an Egypt scenario, learning the morals and the values that they had learned from their forefathers, they would be perfect purple jacket people. That's why the Torah begins with stories up until this point. It is the story of the purple jacket people. Right? Is this opening your eyes? That's what it is. It is explaining why we need the laws. That's why it didn't just jump into the laws. So here's what's very cool. When you have laws in the Torah that seem like they're not covering a moral or an ethic, the truth is it is, and very often it traces itself back to one of the stories in the Torah. So you'll have a law, don't kill, don't steal, so that maybe we understand intuitively. One can argue. But then you have laws that are really symbols of a story or an event that had happened where someone had a moral failing or a moral victory, and that law is here to remind me of that moral failing or that moral victory. Are you following me? Let me give an example of this to make it clear. Okay? It's a famous example of shatnez. And the shatnez is a great example because it shows how it traces itself back. Shatnez is the law, we don't mix a mixture of wool and linen. So why don't we mix wool and linen? How does that make me a better person? Right? How does it make me better not to mix wool and linen? And what if I told you that if we did not mix wool and linen, we would have peace in the Middle East? How would that make you feel? Not wearing wool and linen makes peace in the Middle East. I told you this. It's brilliant. How does that make peace in the Middle East? Okay, here we go. Wool and linen. There were 2 people, their names are Cain and Hevel, Cain and Abel. They were the children of Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve. Cain and Hevel, Cain and Abel. Cain was a farmer. Hevel was a shepherd. Cain one day says, I want to make an offering to the Almighty. Thank Him for giving me half a planet Earth. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a sacrifice of of my produce. Now he used to plant something called flax. So he took his flax and he took whatever was left over, because he used all the good flax, and he took whatever was left over from the flax. He put it on the altar and he said, okay, Almighty, this is for you, from me to you. Me to you, take this. And God says, not interested. Thanks, but no thanks, not interested. Hevel, meanwhile, said, hey, that's a good idea. I too want to bring a sacrifice to the Almighty. Now, he was a shepherd. Abel was a shepherd. So he had sheep. So you know what he did? He took his biggest, plumpest, fluffiest sheep, and he put it on an altar and said, God, this is for you. And God said, oh, okay, I like that. And he sends a fire down from heaven. It consumes the sheep. Consumes it totally. Cain turns to God and says, God, what's up with that? I bring you my flax and you don't accept it. And he brings you his sheep and you take it. Why? So God says, look, I don't need your flax and I don't need his sheep. I made them both. They're mine. Why do I ever accept a carbon? Carbon does not mean sacrifice. It comes from the word karov, which means to become close, to develop a relationship. I accept it because you're giving me something that's meaningful to you. So your brother Abel, he wanted to develop a relationship with me. He took what was most precious to him, which was his sheep, big, plump, fluffy his prize sheep. He offered it to me, and he said, God, I want you to have this. That's how I'm going to make a relationship with you. So God says, okay, that's great. You want to have a relationship with me? I'll take it. But what did you give me? You gave me your leftovers? I'm a dog under the table. You throw me scraps? I'm not interested. I don't need it. You don't want to have a relationship? Don't have a relationship. At this point in time, Cain had a choice. Option A, he could have gone over to his stalks of flax, taken the best flax, say, you know what, I'm going to learn from my brother Abel that you got to bring something that's meaningful to you, and he could have sacrificed his biggest flax. Or, option B, kill off the competition. That's what the big supermarkets do, right? Kill the competition and charge what they want. Kill off the competition. What did Cain decide to do? Option B, kill off the competition. Turns to the guy, how you like them apples, huh? Right? no, able to bring you your big fluffy plump sheep, right? God's, where's your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? He says, cut it out. You killed him. I'm writing you out of the history books. That was it for Cain. That's why we're not children of Cain or Abel. Adam and Chava had another child, Seth, and we're children of Shes. Cain wrote himself out because he chose unwisely. He could have learned from the next person. He could have learned from Hevel how to be great. Instead of improving himself, instead of working on himself, he just decided to kill off the competition. Okay? What is the lesson? The lesson is known in Hebrew as Kinas Sofrim Tarbe Chachma. When you see someone accumulating wisdom, you see them becoming greater. And this could apply to anything. You see them becoming greater in their Judaism, in their religion, in their losing weight, in their saving money. Something that a person is striving to better themselves as a human being. And you don't want to do it, don't knock him. What is wool and linen? A jacket of wool and linen. Where does wool come from? Sheep. Where does linen come from? Flax. That's right. The first time in history that wool and linen combined, bloodshed emerged. And the point being, to remember the story of Cain and Hevel. Unless you think that this concept of seeing the next person grow is considered a small, minor moral concept, why does Iran hate Israel? What did Israel ever do to Iran? Did we kill their savior? We didn't kill their savior either. But did we kill their savior? Did we take their oil? Did we even bomb their nuclear reactor? Not yet. What did we do? What did we do to Iran? Or Saudi Arabia? Or all of the other countries that hate Israel? That's right. That's the answer. Israel is a democracy. Israel allows women rights. Israel allows every religion to practice freely. Right? Israel allows commerce, an open market. Israel is the country that is a beacon of light and morality to the nations. And it makes Iran and Syria and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Iraq uncomfortable. Because maybe the natives are going to get restless and they're going to demand it of their own government, which is a dictatorship, a theocracy. So instead of helping out, instead of changing, instead of learning and growing from Israel, what do I want to do instead? Option B, kill out the competition, wool and linen, shatnez. Every mitzvah targets a moral concept. And these moral concepts are huge. They're significant and they're important. And we can go through each mitzvah. And if you have the time and you're very curious, very interested, open up a Rav Shamash Fall Hirsch, open up a Sefer HaChinuch, open up a Chavetz Chaim ala mitzvahs, and you'll be able to learn and grow. Find out what each mitzvah is targeting. It's brilliant stuff. Now we're getting into sophisticated Judaism. You see, otherwise, you know what we are? Otherwise, we are a bunch of people who are ADD. Or we're maybe obsessive compulsive, even worse. We're obsessive and compulsive. Now we sit, now we stand, now we shake, now we do. Now we shake this, now we shake that. Now we shake ourselves and this at the same time. Now we eat this, now we eat that, now we stand under here. Now right? We just become people who go through motions. How is it supposed to change me? How is it supposed to affect my family? How is it supposed to make the world a better place? I don't know. Purple jacket people, it gets lost. Not eating pork is targeting a concept called tocho kabaro, sincerity. Not eating milk and meat? How much time do we have on this?
Unlimited.
Unlimited?
No, unlimited. Well, we still have time, so it's okay.
How much time?
We have another hour. So.
Another hour. Okay, we're not going to go another hour. Okay, we'll give one more mitzvah example, and then I want to give one minhag example. Let's speak about not eating milk and meat. Okay? Why don't we eat milk and meat? Am I immoral if I eat a cheeseburger? Or maybe it's my own stomach, maybe, I don't know. But am I actually immoral? What is it targeting? So let's understand it. Milk always represents mercy. Well, cows aren't the only thing, but everything has milk, right? Any mammal has milk. Milk. No. Right? Yeah, almost. That was kind of right? Why? Well, milk targets mercy. Do you know that when a little child cries, little baby cries, the mother's breast automatically fills up with milk? It's amazing. Chemical reaction. Mother hears the baby cry, whoosh, the breast fills up with milk. Yes. Not only that, but there's so much mercy that the mother's body begins to understand the rhythm of the baby, and like clockwork, it gets itself ready so that when the baby cries, it should have the milk ready. So, my wife, we have 10 kids. My wife is one of the nursing mothers, and my wife would often say, "Oh, you know what? The baby's about to wake up." I'd say, "How do you know? The baby sounds asleep." "No, I felt my milk come in." And a minute or two later,
wow,
it's crazy. Amazing stuff, huh? It's amazing stuff. You know, by the breast of a human being is over the heart, which is the place of mercy. And by a human being that has a tremendous capacity for mercy, the mother can actually gaze down at the baby while the baby is nursing. A cow can't do that. When a little baby calf is nursing from the mother, the cow stares straight ahead, and the baby calf nurses. But by a human being, they look at this little baby. Little babies are very similar to old men, they say, right? No hair, no teeth, and okay, we'll stop over there. Anyways, so what? I hope this is appropriate enough for the Torah time. Anyways, so milk is all about mercy. And killing an animal has an element of cruelty to it. You know what? Killing an animal, it's allowed in the Torah, but even the way it's allowed, we have all sorts of laws. For example, just the way the knife has to slit the throat of the cow, shchita, has to be done in such a merciful, painless way that the animal really doesn't even feel that it was cut. Do you know that before they slaughter an animal, they run their thumbnail, the slaughterer, the shochet, runs his thumbnail along the blade to make sure that there are no nicks in the blade. Because you know what would happen if there would be a nick in the blade? Then as you cut, the animal would feel a little bit of pulling, tearing. And that's not okay. You can't push, because then it'll feel pressure, it'll get scared. There are laws. And even when you kill an animal, you got to wait until it's... You can't take a piece from an animal while it's still alive. There are laws called tzar balachayim. You can't cause an animal unnecessary suffering, so on and so forth. But killing an animal has an element of cruelty. And the law of don't eat milk and meat together really targets the concept, don't mix your mercies with your cruelties or your strictnesses. Let me explain to you what that means, because it's such a critical concept. Nations rise and fall on this one concept. A nation is considered a righteous nation or a wicked and evil nation if it is able to discern between what is good and what is bad, what needs strictness, what needs mercy. Let me give you an example. If you would have gone into the barracks, the barracks of the guards, the officers at a concentration camp, one of the things you may have seen are the cute little dogs that the officers owned. And they would treat these dogs with a tremendous amount of love and dignity. They would sometimes make little sweaters for their little Wiener Schnitzel, little thing, right? And they'd take a little silver bowl and pile it high with ground up meat. And if you were just an outsider looking at this, you would say, wow, look how merciful, look how kind, what a nice man, look at the way he treats living things. When really, 16 feet away behind electrified barbed wire are skeletons of human beings who would do anything for a potato peel. They haven't eaten. They're so malnourished that if you see the way they eat, you could actually see the food as it goes down their throat. So much mercy. You have so much mercy on this dog and this animal that does not need that kind of mercy. It does not need the sweater. It probably detests it. And it does not need to be eaten out of silver. It probably gives the food a sort of tinny taste, is my guess. And meanwhile, you're having so much mercy on this dog that you end up being cruel to human beings that really do need your mercy. Don't mix up your mercy with your cruelty. Know who needs your mercy and who needs your cruelty. And who needs your strictness. PETA in California once had this crazy ad. It was one of these PETA's People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. They had this billboard, and it was a split screen billboard. So half of the billboard was a picture of chickens, a big pile of dead chickens. And the other half of the billboard was a big pile of dead Holocaust victims. One of the pictures, famous Holocaust pictures. And the caption at the top stated, "What's the difference?" And these Holocaust survivors woke up the next day, they looked out the window of their condominiums, and they looked and they saw these billboards. What's the difference between you and a dead chicken? And they were in anguish and they were in pain. And you're shaking your head, that's not right. And you know what? That's not right. But when you have so much mercy on the chicken that doesn't need your mercy, you end up being cruel to these human beings that have been through hell, who really do need your mercy, who really do need that compassion. Don't mix up your mercies with your cruelties. Know when it's time. And you should know, all of politics ride on the concept of milk and meat. Should I be merciful to the guy in death row and not kill him? Or should I be merciful to the public outside, which means I'm going to have to be cruel or strict on the guy who went on this killing spree? Who needs my mercy? Who needs my cruelty? Even as a parent, these issues come up, the issue of milk and meat. Right? My kid runs in the street a few times. I'm very, very nervous. I'm very worried. So I put him in the corner. My neighbor comes to borrow some sugar. So as I'm going to get the sugar, he sees my kid crying in the corner. And he turns to me as I come back with the sugar and he says, "Let him out. Have a heart. Have a heart. Let the kid out. He's crying." Is he being merciful? Is that what mercy is? That kind of mercy is cruelty. Because if he doesn't learn his lesson, God forbid, he could run on the street again. Who knows what could happen? Don't mix up your mercies with your cruelties. That is the concept. That's why, by the way, when the Torah gives us the mitzvah of don't mix milk and meat, you know how it phrases it? Don't cook a kid in its mother's milk. It's a very strange way of saying don't mix milk and meat. You know why it says that? The Torah very often gives us a hint as to what a mitzvah is targeting. So over here, what is the hint? The hint is, don't take a kid that was supposed to nurse from its mother. Don't take the milk from that mother that was supposed to give it nourishment, that was supposed to give it sustenance, and take that very milk and cook the kid, kill the kid in that milk that was supposed to nourish it. That's the greatest bastardization of mixing up cruelty with mercy. That's Basar v'chalav. It's a concept that transcends time and that confronts every nation in the world at all times. What needs our mercy? What needs our cruelty? Gaza, do we open? Do we have mercy? Are we being cruel? Are we allowing terrorists through? In Hebrew, shikol hadas. What do I do? Meat and milk. Big issues here. Every single mitzvah targets. Now, I want to say one last thing. Not only does every mitzvah target a moral concept, even every custom targets a moral concept. And when you hear this is amazing. See, because when we think of customs, we think of Fiddler on the Roof. We think of tradition, right? The guy, I love that movie, Fiddler on the Roof. You know why I love it? Because the whole movie is set up by the first song in the movie.
Yeah.
Right? The whole movie. The guy gets on the stage. The guy dances around. Tradition. Why do we do this? I don't know. Tradition. And his kids, one after the next, get further and further away from Judaism. Why do they leave Judaism? Because you don't know what you're doing. When you don't know what you're doing, then you just dance around. Tradition. It's a great song.
You don't know why you're doing it.
But you don't know why you're doing it. You don't know why. And your kids ask, and you say, why? I don't know, tradition. And not only that, but I think in the setup of the movie, they turn to the rabbi, and they ask the rabbi, and they make the rabbi look like a bumbling fool, and the rabbi himself doesn't know the answers to these questions. Tradition. So, you know what? We're no different than the French who like wine, and the Italians who like pasta, and the Americans who like baseball, right? So we have our traditions. They like baseball, we like tzitzis. Yeah, there you go. That's all it is. Just another tradition. What is it all about? And yet, every custom that we have, even the customs that are not in the Torah, are targeting a moral concept. Even the customs. We wear a yarmulke. Because originally, in the Gemara, there was a certain person who was predicted that their child would grow up to be a thief. And the parent put on them a yarmulke. The mother made a yarmulke, a head covering, to remind the child that the Almighty looks and cares about each person's property, and the Almighty is always looking. And that stopped and was targeting a moral concept. When we cover our challah on Shabbat, you know what we're targeting? We're targeting embarrassment, right? And jealousy. Embarrassment and jealousy, right? Because the wine, really you should make the bracha on the bread before the wine. So we cover it over. If you're not going to embarrass bread, how much more so shouldn't you embarrass your fellow friend, right? When we light Shabbos candles, we're targeting Shalom Bayis, peace in the home. How? You'll have to ask your rabbis. Each one of these are targeting a concept. I'm going to pick the most far-flung, strange concept you've ever heard. Maybe you haven't heard it. And once, what? Sugar in a cup.
Sugar in a. I went to a pity in a band. They gave me this.
Oh, well, the garlic is fertility. Yeah, that's a Gemara in Hurrius. So I'm going to pick the strangest custom that you've ever heard, and if you could understand that even this custom is targeting morality, then please extrapolate from this that any custom that you will ever hear is really targeting morality. Okay? Anyone hear the custom that when you put on your shoes, you put on the right shoe and tie the left shoe first? You put on the right shoe first, put on the left shoe, tie the left shoe, then the right shoe. Ever hear about that?
Yeah, it's halacha, right?
It's halacha. Why? Why? There was this guy who wrote a book. It was a book about his venture into other religions. He didn't plan on converting, but he wrote this book because he wanted to get inspiration from other religions and bring them to Judaism. It's sort of a warped book, but within that book, he's sort of poking fun of Judaism that he didn't understand. One of the commandments, one of the customs he said was, do you know Jews, even when they put on their shoes, they put on the right shoe, put on the left shoe, tie the left shoe, then the right shoe. We're an obsessive, compulsive people. What are we doing and why are we doing it? And how does that make us better? How does that make us moral? What is it supposed to do for us? And lest you think, by the way, that this is an insignificant custom, I want to tell you something. Years ago, there was a man who pretended to be Mashiach. He was a fake. He was a fraud. His name was Shabtai Tzvi. But he pretended he was Mashiach. And the rabbis from Poland came to visit this charismatic person. They heard he knew Kabbalah. They heard great things about him. But they wanted to see with their own eyes whether he was Mashiach. And when they walked into the house, he was in the middle of putting on his shoes. And they saw, according to one version of the story, they saw him putting on his right shoe and tying his right shoe, putting on his left shoe, tying his left shoe. They got up, they left the room and said, he's no Mashiach. He can't be Mashiach. So if the custom is that powerful that it could take a person away from being Mashiach, I can nullify a person from being Mashiach. So then, what is it all about? So here is the reason. It's the final thing we're going to say. Where does that custom come from and how does that target morality? So again, like I said before we went back to the story of Cain and Hevel, now we're also going to go back to a story, and the story we're going to go back to is a little bit later on with Avraham. And the story goes like this. Abraham had a nephew, his name was Lot. Lot was kidnapped by 4 kings who had just beaten 5 kings, a very powerful conglomerate of kings, and they had kidnapped Lot. Lot, meanwhile, nephew of Avram, it was told to Avram, and Avram said, I have to go and rescue my nephew Lot. So he went and he took a band of a few hundred men, and miracle of miracles, he was able to defeat the 4 kings, which is an amazing thing. It was a miracle. Well, after he had beaten these kings, the king of Sodom comes over to Avram and says to Avram, good job, excellent, you're the victor, you won, fair and square, of course you get your nephew back, but to the victor go the spoils, and therefore we know the rules in our day and age. If you win at war, what do you get? You get to keep the men, the women, the children, the gold, the silver, the diamonds, the rubies, the emeralds, the sapphires, the pearls. It's all yours. But, says the king, you're Abraham. Everyone knows. What are you going to do with the men, the women, and the children? That's not your style. You're not a killer. Are you going to kill the men and take the women? What are you going to do with them? So please, let us keep the men, the women, and the children. But you, of course, can keep the gold, the silver, the diamonds, the rubies, the emeralds, the sapphires. That's all yours. 9 kingdoms worth. 9 kingdoms. So, turns Avram to the king of Sodom and says, I don't want the men, the women, and the children. I don't want the gold and the silver and the diamonds and the rubies and the emeralds. I don't want any of it. As a matter of fact, I don't want a string and I don't want a shoe strap. I don't want any of it. I came because you captured my nephew Lot. You captured him. I'm taking him back. I got him back. Hasta la vista. Goodbye. I'm on my way home. And he left. And the king of Sodom was left standing there with his jaw on the floor. He just turned down more wealth than Bill Gates. Didn't know who Bill Gates was, but whoever he was, more wealthy than that he could have become. Avram leaves the presence of the king, and Hashem appears to Avram, and Hashem says to Avram, Avram, well done. Well done. You told that king. And I'm going to reward you for what you told that king. For saying, I'm not even going to take a string. I'm going to give you a special mitzvah with strings. Tzitzis. For saying, I'm not even going to take a shoe strap. I'm going to give you a special mitzvah with straps. Tefillin. Now, what was so great about what Avraham told the king of Sodom? What was so great about it? The answer is, there was dialogue going on back and forth. The king of Sodom says to Avram, look, you're Jewish. You're the forefather of the Jews, at least. We know about you guys. You're not killers. You're not rapists. You don't have anything to do with the men, the women, and the children. But we do know what you guys like. What is it you like? That's right. That's right. Isn't that why you went to war? Money. So to you, the gold, the silver, the diamond, it's all yours. Isn't that why you went to war? Says Avraham, you're a total idiot. I did not come to war for the men, the women, the children, and I certainly did not go to war for money. A Jew values one thing and one thing alone. What do we value? Life. You killed life. You captured life. I came to rescue life. You captured Lot. I came to rescue Lot. I got Lot and I go home. That's it. That's the only reason I went to war. No other reason. And that was so great about that's what was so great about what Avram said. Now let me ask you, tefillin are put on what hand, on what arm? The left. And therefore, when we put on our shoes, we put on the right shoe first because in Kabbalah, right is always chesed. Why? We could explain it. Right? Because in the Torah, Yamin is always strong. We want Hashem to give us chesed. But tying our left shoe first is what's strange. That never happens. And the reason that we're doing that is because Avram said, I'm not even going to take a shoe strap. And by saying I'm not going to take a shoe strap, we got tefillin that are put in the left hand. And therefore, when we tie our shoes, we tie the left shoe first to remember that Avram got tefillin because he said, I'm not even going to take a shoe strap. To remember that the Jew values what? And only what? Life. Life, not money. when I was young, they used to throw pennies at me. I was in Staten Island, so I used to fish in my pocket for quarters and throw it back and down. You think they bent down for the quarters? You bet they did. I didn't mind losing a few quarters, but let's see who's bowing down to the money. That's not us. That's not our style. Last year, Hezbollah kidnapped a few Israeli soldiers. Israel went to war. And, the war ended sort of in a draw. There's no question that Hezbollah got their brains beaten out. But the fact that they survived made them, in the eyes of the world, the victors. And Hezbollah put out this statement. They said, you know what? We may not have beaten Israel this time, but we know we're eventually going to beat them. You know how we know we're going to beat them? Because Israelis are nuts. Because if we blow up one of their Hezbollah tanks, when we blow up one of their Merkava tanks, the Merkava tanks, multi-million-dollar tanks, we blow up a Merkava tank, it's like it doesn't even bother them. Right? They're okay. But if you kidnap one or two of their soldiers, forget it. The whole country falls to pieces. They care too much about their soldiers. They care too much about people. They're weak. And therefore, one day we're going to win. And Israel turns to Hezbollah and we say, thank you for the compliment. That's right. A Merkava tank, that can be replaced. But human life, a human soul, that's eternal. That's precious beyond money. That's what we care about. That's tying the left shoe. Each and every mitzvah is targeting beautiful warmth, depth, connection to God. And only if we begin to understand this can we possibly look at ourselves like the purple jacket people who we're trying to be. And that's the end of the purple jacket people story. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much.